All right, we have multiple important stories for you today. Russian ICBMs now striking down inside Ukraine. Confirmed late last night by Kyiv, this represents the first use of ICBMs in any military conflict, all in response to Joe Biden's decision a few days ago to strike inside Mother Russia. Also, the official talking points have now come down about Trump's pick for DNI, Tulsi Gabbard. Wait till you hear the pure propaganda they're leveling against her and who's leading the charge. Also, what the hell is happening at the southern border? The Biden administration appears to be supporting one last major push of illegal caravans into the country. We have the latest and more stories from around the country that you won't hear on corporate media. But before we get started, thank you for liking and sharing these videos. It really helps out the channel. And consider subscribing so you don't miss these regular updates. 1,500 migrants have now formed a caravan in southern Mexico to storm the southern border before Trump gets sworn in. The migrants told the Associated Press yesterday it is going to be more difficult. That's why we're going in hopes of getting an appointment quicker so we're able to cross the border before Trump takes office. That was from a Venezuelan migrant that the AP spoke to inside this caravan. The 1,500 migrants are reportedly coming from Central and South America. The AP said many of them are from Venezuela. This comes as the Democratic mayor of Denver, Colorado yesterday, Mike Johnston, just issued a statement saying he will use, get ready for this, city police and citizens to physically block federal forces from deporting illegals. Denver has been a sanctuary city for years. The Denver Metro, home to a huge population of illegal migrants and Venezuelan gangs. Remember the Aurora, Colorado incident a few months ago, where we're still getting reports of gangs having control over apartment buildings down there? And Mike Johnston isn't alone. The memo's gone out to these Democratic city mayors to resist any and all Trump cooperation with deportations. But here's the thing. Trump won't have this. This is not 2016. This is Trump's top issue, immigration and tariffs, Trump's top two issues. He doesn't need these mayors' approval to enter the cities, to enter their cities. ICE can go in and arrest them whenever they want, which is exactly what they're planning on doing. Here's Tom Homan yesterday, Trump's new border czar, responding, saying, we won't have it. Watch.
Real quickly, what happens to a mayor or a local police department chief that is under Democratic leadership that obstructs ICE in your federal agents that are helping get these deportations? What happens to them?
Well, first of all, if they don't want to help us get the hell out of the way, we're going to do it. If I got to send twice the amount of resources to that city, that's what we're going to do. If they would give us access to the jail, that would mean less agents in the community. For them pushing back and not letting us in the jail, it just means more agents are going to be in the community, so they're hurting themselves. Finally, I'll say this. They need to educate themselves. They need to review this. Title 8, United States Code 1324, III. Read about that and don't cross that line, because it is a felony to harbor and conceal an illegal alien from ICE. Read the statute, don't cross that line.
That's a warning from Tom Homan right there.
In another story, the left-wing hate network MSNBC is reportedly on the chopping block. Comcast Corp now in discussions to unload the network. Sale price apparently isn't even important. This comes as their anchor network, NBC News, not MSNBC, but NBC, is losing viewers rapidly. Top executives at the company are blaming the hateful rhetoric on MSNBC for NBC's dive in ratings. The thought process is that most Americans associate NBC News with MSNBC, so they just automatically tune it out. Here's Bill O'Reilly last night with the inside scoop, breaking this all down. Roll the tape.
That is a huge meteor story.
Why is
Enormous.
it vapor? Just because they're spinning it off and putting them in the... They're spinning off a bunch of brands.
There's no spin-off.
Yeah, there is. It's a spin-off company.
There's no spin-off. See, you buy the propaganda, Cuomo.
Oh, okay.
See what I mean about
I'm just saying
people?
what's being reported.
All right.
But what do you know?
Yeah, I know, but why would you believe what's being reported? You want the real story? Here
Yes,
it comes.
please.
So they're uncoupling, their word, Comcast, MSNBC from NBC News. That means MSNBC has no resources at all. None. They're not going to be able to pay these people millions of dollars, Rachel Maddow, whatever she's making. NBC News is saying, we don't want you around. Why? Because NBC News' numbers, Lester Holt and the Today Show, are catastrophe because half the country equates NBC News with MSNBC and they won't watch. So NBC is desperately trying to save the mothership of information, and they have to throw MSNBC overboard. They're not putting anything into MSNBC. They want to sell it. So where's Georgie Soros now? Georgie's buying radio stations. You can get MSNBC for nothing. They'll give it to you. They don't want any more of this. Why? Because it's hateful. Not because it's so far left. The whole NBC Comcast hierarchy is far left. But it's hateful. They hate Trump. They hate people who vote for Trump. Everybody knows that. And you know what's next? The View. ABC News is going to have to cut ties with The View. And you saw that today or yesterday when Sonny Hostin had to read a legal statement in the middle of a segment. The lawyers get Whoopi Goldberg's ear and it said, we're bringing a statement in on a teleprompter. She reads it. So it is over for these far left networks. Done, never coming back. Dracula's stake in the heart.
So it's been almost 5 days since Joe Biden authorized U.S. servicemen to assist Ukraine in striking targets deep inside Russia. Because remember, Ukraine doesn't have the capability to operate this equipment to launch these strikes. And still, not a peep from Republicans on the Hill. The only congressman speaking out against this is Thomas Massie in the House and Rand Paul in the Senate. Where the hell is our Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson? Quiet as a mouse. Because here's the dirty little secret. Both sides agree on Joe Biden's Ukraine policy. It's insane. And we're now seeing the carnage that Joe Biden unleashed with that decision a few days ago. Reports coming in last night that Russian ICBMs are now hitting targets in Ukraine for the first time. This represents the first use of ICBMs in a military conflict. Ukraine's Air Force Command releasing a statement last night saying, for the first time in the multi-year war, Russia has begun launching intercontinental ballistic missiles, ICBMs, targeting the central Ukrainian city of Dnipro. The Financial Times reporting that Russia launched an ICBM called the RS-26 Rubes, has a range of 3,700 miles and can strike any European capital, impossible to defend against. And it shows that Putin has been holding back. He's had this capability all along, but chose not to use it. Think what else the Russians have that they aren't using. And why would they? They don't need to. Ukraine's nothing more than an irritant to Russia. They have no chance against Russia. And here's the takeaway. This was a warning, a signal to NATO and the US, stop helping Ukraine immediately or else. Because ICBMs are used solely for nuclear payloads. They have little use in conventional warfare. This was a signal to the West. Let's hope our president heeds the warning. Sooner Trump gets sworn in, the better. Over in the swamp of Washington, D.C., the establishment order has sent out the officially approved talking points about Tulsi Gabbard, Trump's new D&I pick. Director of National Intelligence, one of the most powerful jobs in all of government. We're going to play this clip showing Nikki Haley, the person they chose to spearhead this dumpster fire attack against Tulsi, and they chose the perfect person, folks, to lead this fight, because as much as MAGA despises Nikki Haley, the Senate Judiciary Republicans, the senators who have to approve Tulsi as D&I, they all love Nikki Haley. I'm sure they're going to eat this up. Before we play the clip, a few important things to note about D&I. One of the most powerful jobs in government, TSSCI level clearance for all USAPs, can be read in on every single special access program on request and unacknowledged special access programs. There's only around 24 jobs in all of government that even have this clearance level. Even the president doesn't have this level of access. Technically, yes, he does, but it has to go through his D&I first, the Director of National Intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard. Now, this position, D&I, also plays a major role in declassification. They're one of a small group of people who has to sign off on disclosure, on declassifications, and has major sway over the final decision. So, want to see the JFK files declassified? That's Tulsi Gabbard. Want to see the real story about Nord Stream pipeline sabotage? That's Tulsi Gabbard. This will come into play, by the way, in our next story, so remember this, all right? Basically, it makes Tulsi and Matt Gaetz public enemy number 1 and 2. Those are the 2 picks they're coming for. Those are the picks they must prevent from being approved in the Senate. Now, here's the attack they're going to be using. Expect to hear this word for word at the Senate hearings. In fact, I go out on a limb and say that they're probably going to even call Nikki Haley to testify herself. Roll the tape.
Tulsi Gabbard, Director of National Intelligence. Now, everybody loves that she is now saying she's a Republican. But I have always said, let's look at what they've said, what their actions are. DNI, that is the president's top intelligence advisor. It's supposed to fairly represent the views of 18 separate intelligence agencies and units. It has the authority over $100 billion annual U.S. spy budget. $100 billion U.S. annual spy budget. And it holds sway over which secrets we declassify. That's a big deal. This is a job for an honest broker without any pronounced policy biases. So hold that thought for a second. What are the facts about Tulsi Gabbard? She opposed ending the Iran nuclear deal. She opposed sanctions on Iran. She opposed designating the Iran military as terrorists who say death to America every single day. She said that Donald Trump turned the U.S. into Saudi Arabia's prostitute. This is going to be the future head of our national intelligence. In Congress, Tulsi criticized Trump's authoritarian strike against Qasem Soleimani. Now, I will remind you, he was considered the master of death in Iran. She said he had no justification whatsoever for killing him. She tried to limit Trump's war powers against Iran. She tried to cut our annual defense budget so that we couldn't punish Iran and hinder their influence. Reminder, Iran is our #1 sponsor of terrorism, and Tulsi Gabbard was defending Iran.
And we know this is all surface-level propaganda spun up to make it look like she's helping our enemies or sympathetic to the enemy, when in fact she just has a different perspective on foreign policy. She's a non-interventionist, which aligns perfectly with Donald Trump. In another story, Representative Nancy Mace, Republican, just told News Nation that she's had discussions with incoming Trump administration officials on UAP disclosure. I've said it before, Trump will be the disclosure president. Almost every single one of his cabinet picks have been huge proponents of UAP disclosure and transparency in general. And I've heard that Republicans in both chambers of Congress are working on a controlled disclosure plan for President Trump. There are certain members of the Senate specifically who have all the information. Members of the Senate Intel Committee. That committee, along with the House Intel Committee, which is compromised, House Intel Committee headed up by Mike Turner, Republican out of Ohio, terrible Republican. Those two committees, though, have higher clearances for oversight purposes. But the Senate Intel Committee has been working for 2 years on this in good faith, working with the Inspector General of the IC. They've been working to investigate the David Grush claims, over 20 direct witnesses from inside this legacy UAP program. Many firsthand witnesses who've given sworn testimony to Rubio's committee. Basically, they have the full story, or a lot of the story. Now it's up to Congress to get this out to the public. Nancy Mace, she's the chairwoman of the House Subcommittee on Information Technology and Government Innovation. She held a hearing about this last week. In case you didn't see it or hear anything about it, here's some of the highlights that just happened last week. Watch this.
And we will hear testimony today concerning recent revelations about a purportedly secret UAP program whose existence and findings may have been improperly withheld from Congress. But before we get to the witnesses, we're going to have a few more opening statements from our colleagues. And one thing I wanted to add at the end of my closing statement is there is a document that will be entered into the congressional record today. Mr. Tim Burchett from Tennessee has this document, and we just distributed it to every member up here on the dais of this document. But this is going to be the original document from the Pentagon about Immaculate Constellation that Michael Schellenberger delivered to Congress today. So thank you, Mr. Schellenberger, for this information. We are all reading it in real time now, and Mr. Burchett will enter it into the record. But 12 pages about this unacknowledged special access program that your government says does not exist.
So yes, she's invested in this. And yesterday, she spoke with News Nation and foreshadowed what we can expect after Trump gets sworn in. Roll the tape.
I have communicated with folks that I believe will be going into the administration. We have overclassified information. We do it all over the place in every agency. And we should start putting more information out there. And with those that are going to be confirmed for some of these positions, I've already started communicating a desire to say, here's a way to disclose, having some kind of controlled disclosure. You don't have to say everything, but the American people, and especially Congress, we do deserve answers to some of this. What kind of money is being spent? How's it being spent? Are people being injured? Is there a retrieval program? Is this an arms race? And where are we? If this is an arms race, then where are we on? Are we winning it? What have we learned from it? There's a lot here to unpack, especially I sit on House Armed Services Committee. And we shouldn't be, agencies shouldn't be hiding technology from other agencies. We should be working together, right? So I have already started to have those private conversations with individuals I believe will be appointed to certain positions.